The Justice Chief says the IOMED will also serve non-founding members when it's up and running. The new director of Beijing's Liaison office in Hong Kong makes his first community visit. And sources say MTR surveillance camera footage could be integrated into the police monitoring system. Good evening and thank you for joining us. The police are looking into integrating closed-circuit TV footage from multiple government departments into their monitoring system. Sources say the integration could also include surveillance footage from the MTR as well, and the move could be implemented within this year at the earliest. Since April last year, police have installed more than 600 surveillance cameras across Hong Kong. The first phase is expected to reach the target of 2,000 cameras by the end of this year. It is understood the plan could extend to MTR stations and trains and involve feeds from the Transport Department, Housing Department, and the Leisure and Cultural Services Department, potentially linking several thousand cameras within this year at the earliest. Sources say these departments manage a large number of CCTVs and their monitoring systems are more compatible with that of the police. At public rental housing estates, surveillance cameras have already been widely installed in common areas, including ground floor lobbies and lifts. Since last year, nearly 200 mobile surveillance cameras have been mounted at housing estates across Hong Kong as well to curb objects being thrown from a height. But not all cameras are considered suitable for police enforcement use. Kwun Tong District Councillor Pang Chi-seng said some facial images are automatically blurred and these cameras mainly target black spots with falling objects. Locations without recurring issues as such generally don't get cameras. Still, Pang believes linking the CCTV feeds to the police will help crack down on crimes including theft and doorstep scams. On privacy concerns, Pang said there should be a clear protocol for footage retrieval to help residents feel more assured, and prominent signage should be set up to inform them that CCTV surveillance is underway. As the International Organization for Mediation is going to set up its headquarters in Hong Kong, Secretary for Justice Paul Lam told TVB News the body will provide mediation services to resolve disputes as an alternative to arbitration. He also said the mediation platform will serve all countries, including those that are not among the 33 founding countries, and he looks forward to having new members. Samantha Lee spoke with the Justice Chief.
Initiated by China, the International Organization for Mediation, or IOMED, was established with 33 countries signing up to become founding members, and they agreed the new body would be headquartered in Hong Kong. Speaking with TVB News, Secretary for Justice Paul Lam said he is optimistic that more countries will sign up and use the services of the organization.
There have been opinions questioning the 33 countries signed the convention are mostly from the Belt and Road initiatives. Looking ahead, are you expecting more countries from the West joining?
I think you have to look at the matter in context. At the time of negotiation, if I remember correctly, there were only around 19 countries taking part in negotiation. But when it comes to the signing of the treaty, it turned out that altogether 33 countries decided to sign the treaty, which is already substantially more than the countries taking part in negotiation. And then these are only the first batch of countries signing the treaty. The treaty is open for signature by any other country who is willing to do so. So this is not the final number. And when it comes to the provisional mediation service, if you look at the content of the treaty, it also said that even if a country is not a contracting party to the convention and subject to a certain condition, they are still welcome to utilize the mediation service to be provided by IOMED.
When asked whether the IOMED could play a role in conflicts such as the Israel-Hamas war or the conflict in Ukraine, Lam said the body will handle the case as long as both parties agree to pursue mediation.
That's a very important condition before a case will be handled by the IOMED. That is, it's only with the consent of the parties to the dispute. So if the parties to the dispute agree, then in principle, it can be handled by the IOMAC. But at the end of the day, it depends on the agreement of the two parties.
Lam said compared with international arbitration, mediation aims to achieve a win-win solution on a voluntary basis, and he believes both parties will likely comply with the mediation results. Meanwhile, some foreign non-permanent judges resigned from the Court of Final Appeal in recent years, with the number of such judges still serving in a top court falling from double digits to only 6. They are from the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. Lam said although the law does not set a required number of non-permanent judges, the authorities will try their best to recruit overseas judges. He said the participation of more non-permanent judges with profound judicial experience overseas in the top court will contribute to the development of Hong Kong's common law system, making it more effective and international in nature. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan noted that 1/3 of international investment agreements pointed to mediation as a means of resolving disputes. He believes the establishment of the International Organization for Mediation in Hong Kong can provide the necessary support. Writing on his weekly blog, the financial chief said the global economy was shifting eastward, and Asia made up nearly 1/4 of the world's GDP. He said many Asian countries wanted more say in international governance. Chan said the setting up of the IOMAT can enhance the city's competitiveness on global finance, trade, and logistics. Zhou Ji, the newly appointed director of Beijing's Liaison office in Hong Kong, made his first public community visit since taking office. Zhou, who was appointed on Friday today, visited Fucheng Estate in Shemshui-Po and Chenghong Estate in Chengyi. Speaking to residents, he said President Xi Jinping is concerned about the well-being of Hong Kong people. He stressed the district councils, the local committees, and care teams are the 3 driving forces in the city's enhanced governance structure. Zhou said these patriotic groups have played a unique role in serving residents and called on them to act as vital bridges between the SAR government and the public. He said he's honored to take up the post and has pledged full adherence to the one country, two systems principle while fully supporting the chief executive and the administration. The European Commission said Europe was prepared to retaliate against President Donald Trump's plan to double tariffs on imported steel and aluminium. Trump announced on Friday during a visit to a steel plant that he would raise tariffs on imported steel to 50% from 25%, intensifying his global trade war. He later included aluminium imports into his tariff policy. The European Commission said it strongly regrets Trump's plan, adding it undermines efforts to reach a negotiated solution. It said his move adds further uncertainty to the global economy. The spokesperson noted that the European Union had paused its countermeasures to create space for continued negotiations. The tariff war initiated by U.S. President Donald Trump is aimed at bringing factories back to America. But manufacturers say the cost of making goods in America remains prohibitively high. One U.S. lighting company is now exploring a new strategy, setting up a joint factory alongside other companies to share the financial burden and risks. Behind the glow and sparkles of the iconic San Francisco skyline, many light bulbs and fluorescent tubes illuminating the towers are made in China. In California, the smart lighting company relies heavily on Chinese-made parts. To reduce risks, as President Margaret Wong says, they're planning to bring some of its production back to the U.S. and team up with around 10 industry peers to build a joint factory in Texas or Tennessee. Margaret said the cost would be too high for small businesses to set up a manufacturing base on their own. She said U.S.-made parts are still some 30% pricier than Chinese imports with levies, but she said local production can save on inventory costs, so U.S. parts could still be competitive. But not every business owner is as optimistic. The manager of this dim sum factory in Los Angeles said, despite the help of machines, each siumai still requires manual wrapping. Calvin Wong said blue-collar labor is increasingly hard to find in the U.S., with people preferring to drive Uber. He said it's mostly new immigrants working here, but the Trump administration has been barring their residency. Noodle factory owner Tom Tong has been running the business for more than 40 years. He said with workers' insurance, fire coverage, and other expenses, they all add up. Tong added that building a factory in America can take years, worrying that by the time a U.S. plant is finally built, the government policy may have already shifted. Palestinian group Hamas said it wanted amendments to a U.S.-backed proposal for a temporary ceasefire with Israel in Gaza. The request was rejected by Steve Witkoff, the U.S. envoy to the Middle East. Hamas is ready to release some hostages but wants a permanent ceasefire and the withdrawal of Israel troops from Gaza. Meanwhile, efforts to ensure Palestinians in Gaza receive much-needed aid continue tonight. Nasri Karim with more.
World Food Programme workers drive through Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, telling people that the flour is for all people and to just take one bag each. The situation inside Gaza is becoming more desperate, with reports of aid trucks being stopped by armed groups or being overwhelmed by people desperate to feed their families. These Palestinians are returning from an aid station run by the US-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation in Khan Yunis, which aims to control food distribution to prevent theft or looting. Some did not return. Officials say at least 21 people were killed and dozens wounded after they were fired upon by Israeli forces about a kilometer from the aid site. The foundation said in a statement that it delivered aid without incident. With the United Nations fearing imminent famine, the people of Gaza are aching for some relief. Hamas said they are positive about a framework for a ceasefire deal proposed by US envoy Steve Witkoff, but want some amendments. Israel has reportedly signed off on a 60-day truce in which Hamas will release 10 living and 18 dead hostages in exchange for the freedom of around 1,200 Palestinians held by Israel. However, the group wants amendments to ensure a permanent ceasefire and the withdrawal of all Israeli forces. Hamas senior official Bassem Naim denied rejecting Witkoff's proposal, but said Israel's response was not aligned with what had previously been agreed. In Catania, Italy, human rights activists are preparing to sail to Gaza on a vessel carrying food and medicine. Their last attempt was foiled by a drone attack off Malta.
We have our ship, the sailing boat Madeleine, which will carry 12 activists to Gaza. But most importantly, we are carrying humanitarian aid, which is medicine, we have crutches, we have food, we have baby formula, because all of these are not allowed into Gaza.
Nazri Karim, TVB News.
And still ahead, Beijing hits back at the Pentagon chief's remark made at the Shangri-La dialogue in Singapore. A Hong Kong veteran nurse among this year's 35 Florence Nightingale Medal awardees. And Grand Ocean Cinema lowers its curtain for the final time. Welcome back. China has hit back at the U.S. and Pete Hegseth after the Pentagon chief's criticism during a speech at the Shangri-La dialogue in Singapore. Beijing's Foreign Ministry and PLA Major General leading the Chinese delegation at the Singapore Security Forum said Hegseth's comments are destabilizing and Taiwan is not a bargaining chip. Yesterday, in a major speech, Hegseth said China is a threat to the region and an invasion of Taiwan could be imminent. David Garrett reports.
The People's Liberation Army Major General leading the delegation in Singapore at the same event where Pete Hegseth blasted China. Hu Gengfeng told a panel at the Shangri-La dialogue that the US Defense Secretary's accusations were groundless. Hegseth had warned that the PLA could be about to take Taiwan by force. Hu says it's fabricated and aimed at stirring up trouble. The Foreign Ministry in Beijing also hit back, saying the US is turning the Asia-Pacific into a powder keg and it is the US that is the biggest threat to peace in the South China Sea.
发言人重申
CCTV anchor Tian Liang telling millions the Foreign Ministry reiterates that the Taiwan question is entirely China's internal affair. No country is in a position to interfere. The US should never imagine it could use the Taiwan question as leverage against China. The United States must never play with fire on this question. Hegseth, seen here with his Vietnamese counterpart, has not reacted publicly to China's protests. He told Asian countries not to be economically dependent on China and that the region is a priority for Donald Trump. The Philippines in dispute with Beijing over parts of the South China Sea also warning that the Chinese government's concepts of fairness and justice may be in contrast to accepted norms.
To envision a China-led international order, we only need to look at how they treat their much smaller neighbors in the South China Sea, which runs counter to the, quote, peaceful rise they, unquote, they initially promised.
As the Shangri-La dialogue closes, more criticism of China, a running theme of this year's security meeting. Beijing's Defence Minister Dong Jun skipped it, the three-day conference wrapping up with parting words from the chair and host.
Regardless of whether China attends the Shangri-La dialogue, it's incumbent upon all of us also to reach out to China in different forums to try to build those bridges so that we do not end up in a situation whereby either side misinterpret or miscalculate or misrepresent each other's position. And that is dangerous. That is dangerous.
David Garrett, TVB News.
As the 56-year-old Grand Ocean Cinema lowers its curtain for the final time today, residents across various districts flock to bid farewell. The Grand Ocean Cinema from Golden Harvest was crowded with movie fans on its last day. Some photographed the movie posters and the snack shop. A resident said he came all the way from Lambton to Tsim Sha Tsui just to watch anything before the cinemas shut down. He used to watch movies here during his childhood. Some moviegoers managed to get inside early before the show started, just to snap pictures with the classic blue velvet seats. There were 6 screenings on this final day, the first 3 animations and Hollywood movies, while the last 3 blind box movies that were all snapped up. The Grand Ocean Cinema only had 1 giant screen with more than 1,000 seats when it opened in 1969, but was reduced to 456 seats after renovations in 2013. Cinema staff said the sign will be removed after the last screenings at around 11 p.m. Amid Israeli bombardment of Gaza, medical volunteers from all over the world are braving the war zone and giving aid to those in need. A Hong Kong veteran nurse is one of this year's 35 Florence Nightingale Medal awardees who embarked on 3 humanitarian trips to Gaza. He recounts vivid memories of his missions and wishes more people could volunteer for humanitarian aid causes. Samantha Lee reports.
Walter Leung Wai Yin is a veteran nurse with more than 40 years' experience in public hospitals. He is among those who committed himself to volunteer work with the Red Cross 15 years ago. Amid the Israel-Hamas war, he has served in Gaza 3 times since June last year, encountering life and death situations almost every day. He recalled a time when a bullet flew into the operating room where a doctor was performing surgery. The bullet flew past him and collapsed an inflatable tent. He said 4 shipping containers surrounded by sandbags were placed beside the hospital for patients and their families to shelter from danger. He said he saw perseverance from those who were suffering. Leung recounted heartbreaking moments of seeing victims injured by explosions. A grief zone was set up in the area designated for victims on their final journey. He said volunteers did not only offer medical aid, but also company and care for the dying. He hopes more people can be involved in volunteer work to help victims in the war zones. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
This year's French May is setting sights on becoming one of the city's most flavorful festivals, with 5-star food and performances beyond May. TVB News spoke with its culinary ambassador and French May's executive director. This year's French Gourmet brings more than just taste to the table. Chef Anne-Sophie Nicolas, the festival's culinary ambassador, is leading the charge, designing a menu with a mission rooted in heritage, cross-cultural chemistry and creativity.
Using authentic French ingredients help preserve the essence of French cuisine while blending it with local freshness and the rich traditions of French culinary heritage.
The Michelin-starred chef says the event also aims to show how sustainability and fine dining can go hand in hand.
By using quality products, we enhance the dining experience and demonstrate our commitment to responsible gastronomy.
The Gourmet Festival has partnered with over 150 local businesses, including restaurants, wine distributors, and gourmet food producers. It also aims to foster the appreciation for the art of cooking, the stories behind each dish, and the connection built around the dining table. French Gourmet is part of the broader French May Festival beyond just May, as a months-long showcase of art, opera, and ballet, as well as the Picasso exhibition at M+ Museum.
Art and culture is a good opportunity for mutual understanding, to have connect people together. It's quite important in this period of time, and we hope that French May can contribute to this goal.
2 people are dead and hundreds were arrested after disorder broke out in Paris after PSG's victory in the Champions League final. The government has not confirmed reports that a 17-year-old boy who suffered stab wounds is one of the dead. The French Interior Ministry says nearly 200 people were injured. Fans hurled fireworks and some cars were set ablaze. Almost 500 were arrested in Paris when PSG scored early on in the match against Inter Milan. Bottles were also thrown as fans watching on a big screen were confronted by riot police. It is the biggest winning margin in the Champions League final. Paris Saint-Germain thrashing Inter Milan 5-0 to win the trophy for the first time. And that's the news. Thank you for watching and have a great week ahead.